What has been transpiring in Ferguson, Missouri. You'll recall that a few days ago, a policeman shot an unarmed black teenager. We've seen riots in the streets. We've seen the governor of Missouri come in, appointing the captain of the state highway patrol to take over security in that St. Louis suburb. So far, the move seems to have stemmed the violence as protests remained peaceful last night. But underlying tensions remain, threatening to bubble to the surface again. And to talk about this, we welcome in two of our favorite guests from Newsmax New York. Rick Ungar, senior political contributor at Forbes.com and co-host of Steele and Ungar on SiriusXM Radio. And from our Newsmax newsroom here at our Florida Television Center, Javier Manjarres, managing editor of the Shark Tank. You find that website, shark-tank.com. Rick, first to you. Why do you think last night we saw a transformation from the unrest of a few nights ago to something that was described by many reporters as almost a block party situation?
Yeah, I guess like everybody else, JD, I can only point to the one thing that was very different last night. You had a different police force to begin with. It was the state patrol, and you had a very different approach as to how they were policing, rather than showing up looking like the military, frankly, and having guns pointed at the crowd. You saw the captain and others mingling with the crowd and talking with them, and son of a gun, things went a lot better.
On the political front, Javier, U.S. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, mentioned as a possible presidential candidate in 2016, spoke out decrying the militarization of our police forces around the country. During my days in the House, I heard a wise member of Congress say that politics is no longer linear, it's more circular. Will the left and right meet on the issue of the militarization of the police force? Is this a take on the situation a political winner for Rand Paul and practical advice in the process?
First of all, did you say a wise member of Congress told you this?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all,
I know that seems like a contradiction.
Well,
someone who was politically, permission to revise and extend my remarks, someone who was politically adroit. I'll say it that way.
Well, listen, in all due respect to Senator...
That was very good, Javier.
In all due respect to Senator Paul, I think he should stick to what he does best, reciting limericks and holding marathon-long filibusters in the Senate. The statement was dumb. I don't know what he means by demilitarizing the police forces. What are law enforcement supposed to do? Are they supposed to combat these riots like we meant that's happening in Ferguson, or happened a couple nights ago in Ferguson, where they're chucking bricks, rocks, and Molotov cocktails? How are they supposed to combat these rioters with water pistols? What does he want to do? What does he mean by that? Does he mean they need to pull back their assault rifles, assault tactical shotguns? What does that mean? Is he asking for gun rights to be withheld from police officers? I don't know what he's trying to say here, but I think it was a dumb statement.
Well, let's take a look at the statement completely, and then Rick, we'll get your comments. But let's be fair to Senator Paul. I believe he has his comment here. Quote, when you couple this militarization of law enforcement with an erosion of civil liberties and due process that allows the police to become judge and jury, national security letters, no-knock searches, broad general warrants, pre-conviction forfeiture, we begin to have a very serious problem on our hands. Rick, your reaction to that observation by Rand Paul?
Listen, you don't get to hear me do this very often on television, but I'm going to defend Senator Rand Paul. I thought it was a really intelligent statement, and Javier, I really think you're getting a bit extreme when you say he was suggesting that they replace guns with water pistols, etc. Look, there are different ways, even within existing police forces, there are different methods of policing for different situations. If you see what a SWAT team does, you'll see it's a very different approach to policing than what the street cops do. I think what he's pointing out here, and I think JD, I think you said it. You know, people on both sides of the aisle are reaching some agreement on this. The approach that was initially taken, and to be fair, you always have to wait and see, you know, when there's some time and distance between these, whether the decisions were right or wrong. But the approach that was taken seemed to go even well beyond what you might expect from a SWAT team, to where you had, you know, these huge mounted guns pointed at the crowd. I think most police, I've talked, by the way, to quite a few chiefs of police, including from my hometown in Los Angeles originally. This is not the way they would go about handling a riot. Now, maybe they're wrong, and maybe these guys were right, but it was definitely not what you would expect to ordinarily see.
Hold on, did Rick just say that the police had huge mounted guns, like were there turrets there? What does he mean by that?
They did. Didn't you see that picture?
Well, what one gun? What do they have?
Back me up, JD. You guys ran the picture.
Well, I will tell you this, what we have, and we're taking a look at the video
It's
right
like the 4th
now.
of July.
But here's the situation. We have seen, and to be fair about it, Rick, you mentioned your hometown of L.A. What do we see? Some of the bad guys bringing in armor-piercing bullets, all sorts of, weapons. And so cops have a tough job. We can all acknowledge that.
And this is why I say you have to wait and see, because you're absolutely right. The bad guys have some pretty gnarly weapons. I buy that.
Right, so how do we combat that? How does the law enforcement combat that? But like I said, with water pistols, what do you want? Those
how did they combat it last night?
Listen, that big gun,
how did they combat it last
you're
night,
referring to, how do you know that was a rubber bullet gun? How do you know that? How did
they combat it last night?
Well, listen, how did they combat the riot the other night? Against riot, they had riot police.
Because of the way they did it, they were pointing guns at people.
Right. So you think it made a big difference bringing a different law enforcement agency when the rioting already had started subsiding?
Well, I've got a bad habit. I'm a lawyer, and I'm trained to look at evidence.
Oh, you're a trial lawyer.
Actual situations. No, I'm actually not a trial lawyer, but I'm still trained to look at evidence. However, you saw the evidence. There was only one thing different last night, and the only thing that was different was that you had a different police force taking a decidedly different tact. Now, if there had been rioting, I'd be the first guy sitting here saying, well, that didn't work, that was no better, but it turned out there wasn't rioting.
The rioting already subsided. It started to subside.
And we will see
really?
if that continues
now
that the name of the policeman involved in the shooting, allegedly, has been released. What will transpire there? Obviously, this is a story we will continue to follow. And gentlemen, we thank you both for your input and analysis. Now it's your turn at home to tell us your thoughts about this. Why don't you tweet us your comments at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum, and we're coming right back with more on America's Forum.